Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, we got a special episode today. If you like action PC games, this is the episode for you. We got Mike on from the Action PC Sports Community website.
Absolutely, as we do episode TV 38.
I was going to say the Rosie Razisker episode because he's the only guy I knew wore 38 for the Bruins, but the TV 38 episodes. Yeah, this is episode 38. Ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com. The Dice line, 978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423. Send us a text, say hi. And on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. But without further ado, let's get right to that interview with Mike, Ron, shall we?
Yes, sir.
Joining us on the Dice line from the Action PC Sports Community website is Mike. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Mike. I'm here with myself and obviously Ron. Ron, say hi.
How you doing?
All right. And so we're going to talk a little bit about your website here that's pretty much dedicated to the Action PC Sports games. And we got to clear this up right off the bat. It's DKS Sports. Dave, we've been calling it Dave Koch Sports for a long time. What is the pronunciation of his name?
My understanding is it is pronounced Cook.
Okay, so it's Dave Cook Sports.
Yes.
For the Action PC games. Okay. I've heard Coke. I've heard Koch. I haven't heard Cook yet, but if you're going to say it's Cook, that's good enough for us. Right, Ron?
That's close enough, yeah.
That's close enough. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about your site today and about the new golf game that's coming out this week. So I'm at your site here. It's APCSportsCommunity.com. APC for Action PC Sports. Community.com, and there's a homepage and there's links to the 5 games: baseball, basketball, football, golf, and hockey. Tell us a little bit about your website, how you got it started, what's going on with it, and maybe any future plans for the APC community.
Sure. So I've been playing action PC sports games for quite a while, I guess, since the early 2000s, and I was always looking for add-ons and modifications and whatnot. So there was a sports replay site that I've visited in the past that has a lot of community content. And yeah, so there's a lot of community content and it's spread out across different games. So at some point I decided to just create my own site that was focused primarily on action PC sports games. Just the 5 majors: golf, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, and to coordinate or organize things in a more efficient manner so that's easier for people to find things.
And how much success have you had with it?
Good success. We get. I don't really track the download numbers, but we do get quite a few downloads. I send out emails whenever we post new things, so I do get responses from people, just offering a thanks or whatnot. But yeah, I think we're doing quite well. I think just reading the comments in the Dave Cook forums, it seems that the response is very positive and people appreciate what we're doing.
I've noticed some growth with the website there because I know I found it, must have been last year or so, and I actually downloaded a couple of the user-created golf courses that we'll talk about in a minute, and I actually did a kind of a mini review. I would play the course on my YouTube channel and show off the custom course here, and I'm very, very impressed, by the way, with the 2 or 3 that I played. But on your website here, if I were to click on your website, and let's just say I hover over baseball, I got links to the Tapper Talk forum, which is kind of the official, non-official Dave Cook forum. I get links to the store so you can go buy the games. And then there's also links to seasons and images on your site. So you've really done a good job of incorporating the 3 main facets of the game, basically, is that the main site where you can order it, the forum where you can discuss it, and then you have some content here on your site that people can download.
Right. So I guess I kind of viewed ourselves as kind of, certainly supplementing the official product. And we certainly want to steer people back towards the official products. Our purpose in kind of archiving the community content isn't to replace any existing game company stuff. We want to produce stuff that the game company doesn't have interest in. And it's usually kind of niche, in terms of seasons, minor league seasons or international seasons, stuff like that the game company
would never sell.
That would never sell, that there's very limited, interest in. So, that's what we kind of have focused on. The game company is very supportive. They really do work with us in collaboration and coordination to kind of figure out, what's the best time to release certain things. What's certain, in terms of the golf game, what are holes in terms of courses for seasons that we may be interested in trying to help fill. The game company has been great all along.
Okay, that's good. You have a good relationship with them. How do you get the images and the things like that? So, people send them to you?
Yeah, so it's the good thing about the community, it's completely community driven, right? So all I'm doing is kind of just gatekeeping the information and posting it on a site. Anybody is free to send me whatever they want. We try to make sure that we don't have duplicates of certain things in terms of photo packs for certain seasons. So we do try to, provide a certain level of quality in terms of making sure that, things are in properly, a proper aspect ratio or something that will appear good within the game. So anybody can just click on the link on the Action PC Sports Community site. There's a link on the bottom to contact us. Has my email. You can just, send me an email. Introduce yourself, tell me what you would like to post, give some information about it so we can include it on the site, and we kind of take it from there and get it up pretty quickly.
All right. Golf seems to be the sport that kind of attracts you the most, or at least to get the site started. Talk a little bit about creating courses and how you got involved in that.
Sure. So I'm actually a pretty late comer to the golf game. I think the golf game started in 2013.
Yes, it was a lot. Yeah.
And even though I've been playing action PC football and basketball since the early 2000s, and I've played golf my whole life, I didn't really understand how a golf sim game would work. To me, it didn't seem like it would be such a fun game to play. And it actually wasn't until 2015, I think, the game company had a free giveaway for a few months. And around Christmas time, they actually released the prior year's game and I think one course as a free download. So that was the first time I kind of downloaded it and kind of was looking around, and it's like, oh, it's actually kind of fun. It's not just a text sim. It's, it actually takes your user input. You get to aim where the shots go, and you get to kind of select certain aspects of the shot, which was kind of interesting. It's kind of like almost a meld between a video game and just a text sim, right? Because it's not just, rolling a dice and getting a result,
right,
for a drive. It's completely different. You aim, you get to provide, different information about, what kind of spin you want to put on the ball, what kind of shot shape. Like, to me, that was kind of really interesting. As far as the community courses go, I think back then they had about 50 courses, and they had most of the, kind of major courses already covered for the past seasons, or for the most recent seasons, but they didn't really have a lot of stuff for historical seasons. So I saw that they were offering like a 1960 season, a 1970 season. I would start looking at the PGA Tour courses for back then, and it was just very heavily underrepresented, right? They had like maybe 2 or 3 courses for an entire season. So
no Warwick Hills or
right.
Doral the old-fashioned way and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So as someone who kind of loves golf history and loves golf architecture, like, I thought it would be kind of neat to start adding these courses. So I basically, it's kind of sounds silly, but I just, the one good thing about Dave Cook Games is that, all the games are basically data driven, and you can, most of the files you can kind of open and look at. It's certainly in terms of the golf game, you can open any of their course files. You can open them in a graphical editor or a text editor. So it was basically just a process of trial and error of kind of looking at the files and figuring out how the game worked. So I basically had I was missing a lot of information, but I think I had enough information where I was able to get it like a playable golf hole that I was able to build myself. So I sent it over to the game company and was like, here's what I here's what I've done. What do you guys think? And they were like super receptive. They they said that, they had thought long and hard about how to, create some kind of course designer. And I think in order to, the issue with building a course designer is, you need access to the actual graphical imagery of the courses, which is kind of outside of their domain, right? Because they're not producing these aerial images of the courses.
Right.
They're getting them from, a license-free site. So that's an issue. It's kind of hard to build a user interface to allow people to kind of drag and drop, bunkers or water hazards or whatever. Like that's kind of beyond what they do, I think. So the fact that, we were able to kind of cut out the middleman and do a lot of that work ourselves and produce something, like they were like, oh my God, this is great. We'll give you, information about how the rest of the data files work. So once we had that, we're able to produce courses that are, just as good as theirs.
Again, we're talking with Mike from the Action PC Sports Community webpage. And Mike, my question for you here, so we're talking about creating courses. Is that something I could do? Could I say, geez, I want to create my local course and send it to you? I mean, is that something possible? Is it, could I do that? What do I need to do this? And how difficult is it to create your own course?
Yeah, I'd say, anything's possible, right? It's kind of challenging because there is a certain level of graphical editing information you need to be able to do it right. So the process of getting an overhead whole image is actually not that hard. There's something called the U.S. Geological Survey, which is a government-funded repository of aerial imagery for the entire United States. So, you can get up to like anywhere between 6-inch and 1-foot resolution for pretty much the entire continental United States. So that's what we use for, and that's what the game company uses for a lot of their aerial imagery. Once you get that imagery, you obviously have to, be able to figure out how to build layers on top of it. And I use Photoshop. That's the graphical component that I use to basically map the various parts of a course. So if you think about it, you think of an aerial image, how do I denote where the bunkers are? How do I denote where the tee boxes are? Like all of that has to be drawn as a layer on top of the image. So we do that in Photoshop. And then we note the pixel locations of certain areas of interest, like the green, like the pin locations on the green, like the tee boxes. Those go into the data file. And then the game engine reads all that information and kind of figures out what to do based on that. So, yes, to answer your question, I think anyone can do it, but you would need some, basic knowledge about how Photoshop works or about how any graphical editor works.
Okay, so now is that any of that information available on your website? So let's just say, okay, I want to give this a whirl. I got a 9-hole course up here I want to do, and I got the overhead stuff, and I know a little bit about Photoshop. What would be the next step so I could contribute to your website? Yeah,
so I have not posted any of that information in any kind of easily digestible format, just because Photoshop or any graphical editor is so complex in and of itself. Like, I don't think it's my responsibility to kind of educate someone on how to use it. You could just Google, there's something called GIMP, which is a freeware alternative to Photoshop. Mm-hmm. So you can download that. You can, read up on that. They have all kinds of tutorials that are better written than anything I could ever write. And then once you had some kind of basic understanding of that, I'd be happy to send you all the information that I have in terms of. Okay, so somebody would have to contact you and say, hey, Mike, I'm interested in creating a course here. Can you send me just some of the basics that you have? Again, not a full Photoshop tutorial, but sure.
Here's what getting started, and if you can figure this out, then send me the course and I'll look at it.
Yeah, so I typically just send like a little package. There's certain like maps or color mappings that correspond to certain parts of the data files that help people understand what's going on. So like I don't have anything written. I do have some prepackaged material that I can send to anybody who's interested. And then after that, we have a Slack chat that we use to coordinate all of the community activities. So there's about 10 people that help out with certain aspects of this stuff. So.
Is there any access to like historical images? So let's say you wanted to create, let's say, Augusta from 1970. I know you can move around, get yardages and put tees in places, but if you wanted to give someone the feel of playing in historic Augusta or an historic Firestone or any of those, is that possible or no?
That's kind of hit or miss. When it comes to community courses, we also use Google Earth. So Google Earth has imagery that is, supremely high resolution. They have different eras of imagery that they have. But again, for something that looks good in a game, it needs to be of sufficiently high resolution.
Right.
So it's really like trial or error to find out what looks good. There is historical imagery for some places, but again, what is historical? Like if we're talking about going back to like the 2000s, okay.
It's not really the same.
Yeah, no, like any aerial imagery from 1970 is black and white. It's
and white and greeny.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing that we've done to kind of address some of that, and we haven't really gotten too far into it, but I've done a little bit, is we're able to use graphical tools as well to kind of draw a course that no longer exists or draw a layout that no longer exists. And the game company has tools that they use to generate certain aspects of it based on the information that we provide. So I don't know if you guys have played the game a lot, but there's been some courses that sort of look half like an aerial image and half like graphics put on top of it.
Right. Yes.
So we use those tools to kind of help flesh out some things. So one of the newer courses coming out, I think it's called Old Las Vegas Resort. It's
Summerlin? Is that really Summerlin?
No, it's actually the Desert Inn Country Club.
Oh, okay.
Which, was demolished in, I think it was 2001. So there was no aerial imagery available for that. So that was like a total research, reconstruction based on all information we could have. We actually, I shouldn't say there was no aerial imagery. There was no usable aerial imagery. So we found very old aerial imagery and kind of graphically enhanced it to make it look like a golf course. But Dave, all the information in terms of the yardages and the placement of hazards, like it's completely accurate.
Dave, that was one of the old 5-round tournaments.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Five rounds in the desert.
Now, could you actually recreate a course just from a scorecard? If you some scorecards, they have the whole layout and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. So the challenge is, you would have to draw everything perfectly into scale. Mm-hmm. So it is possible. You could basically grab an image off of anything. Like if you wanted to grab an image off your neighborhood, for instance, off of Google Maps or off of Google Earth, you could grab an image of your neighborhood and just start drawing fairways on your street.
That was my next question. My next question is has anybody submitted or tried to do a crazy course? And I have some things written down like Antarctica. Could you take some images from Antarctica and create a golf course?
You absolutely could. I mean, one of the, it's funny, like I've spent the last several years just working on real golf courses just because there's so many holes. And we could talk about that later, like how many holes there are in tour schedules going back to like the 60s, right? So if you imagine that we want to be able to cover season replays from 1960 to present, any season probably has 40-something tournaments, right? So you're looking at 400 courses that need to be playable in order to achieve that. It's a monumental task.
Well, not only that, but the fact that courses change over time. How many versions of Torrey Pines South would you have if you went back to when it opened up till today?
Yeah. So some of that I think we just acknowledge that it would be kind of crazy to have, 50 versions. Although I will say the game company, like certain courses, they pay extra special attention to. So like Pebble Beach and Augusta National, they have released multiple versions of those, I think, to try to reflect historical layouts when possible. I think last year they released 3 versions of Augusta National, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is interesting. So, like, if you wanted to replay 1986, you're actually playing, the pre-tigerized version of Augusta National. Yeah, so they do pay special attention to that.
And Pebble has that Jack Nicklaus redid the 5th hole. That's a completely new hole,
right? New, and and last year for the Open, they really tightened in the fairways. So they released a 2019 version, or 2019 update, I should say, of Pebble Beach. So, the fairways are much more, much tighter. It becomes a much more difficult golf course.
But the crazy course is a possibility, because I don't know if you've ever played on the PS4. I have the game called The Golf Club, which is almost like a Tiger Woods type of game, and they have community courses. In fact, I prefer to play some of the community courses, and they created some crazy ones. There was one I remember playing. It was, I don't know if it was 5,000 yards or whatever it was, but it was straight downhill on a very slick fairway, and you hit the ball, and your drive literally went 5,000 yards downhill into a hole, and you could get a hole in one because it was set up like the bottom of a little cup or something like that. And it was hilarious to play something like that. So I didn't know, has anybody tried to submitted a totally offbeat golf course?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has done anything crazy yet. I do have on my list, I had the idea of kind of just putting a golf course in Midtown Manhattan one day.
Central Park would be a great place to put a course, wouldn't it?
Or the Grand Canyon, on the edge of the Grand Canyon.
Drive the canyon, yes.
Or even if you had some islands that were close together and you could drive from one island to the next. I mean, just something that would be totally offbeat, it would be very lighthearted to do. And that's possible.
You'd need a big one to get from Martha's Vineyard to Nantucket, but it's possible, I suppose.
Yeah, so, I mean, anything is possible. It's really limited by your imagination. I would say, I personally don't have the time to dive into that stuff, because I'm so busy working on real courses. You guys have no idea. I've spent probably a couple hours almost every day for the last 3 years working on golf course stuff.
Well, that's nice. So I'm dropping the bug right now into other people who are working in the community right now, that if you wanted to create a crazy course, I would play it and put it on my channel. So if you wanted to have hole 1 be at Stonehenge, let's say, and then hole 2 might be the Sphinx in Egypt, and
there you go. The 7 wonders of the world. That's a good idea.
The Great Wall of China.
Yeah, I mean, picture the Great Wall of China playing golf. Maybe you got to chip it over the Great Wall to get onto the green. So fun stuff like that. I'm dropping the bug out there to do that.
Talk about a road hole.
Now, how do we go and get your? So I go to your website, right? And I click on. So I'm going to your website here, and I click on golf, and then I look down at courses, and you have a lot of courses here. And it looks like there are some that link right to Dave Cook's website, so you can buy, and others that are your own. And can I just download them, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the free ones you could basically just download. There's a download button. Obviously, the official courses, we just provide a link so you can go to their website and buy from the store. The other purpose when I kind of put this together for the golf game was that it wasn't clear, because for trademark reasons, the game company's not allowed to use the real names of courses. So whenever courses get released, there's always a lot of, people don't know what courses are what. So by providing the real names on our community site, it hopefully allows you to kind of just pop in, use the search bar, see what's out there, find what you're looking for, hopefully. And then if it's a free download, you can just click on the download link, and there's all kinds of other options that we provide. We provide additional layouts for different years. So basically, I don't know if you guys use this, but if you play historical seasons, as Ron was saying before, if you were playing the 1986 Masters, you probably want to play from the 1986 Masters tees, right? You want to use that yardage. You want to use those pins. We provide you the option to download those layouts, which you can then, as you choose that course, you can choose which yearly layout you want to use for any given round that you play.
Is there one course that you love more than others? When you kick back and relax after whatever it is that you do, where are you playing?
For me, probably the course that I guess is closest to my heart is the Pine Valley one, which they call. What do they call?
Yeah, that's pretty hidden.
Yeah. So what's funny is in real life, I actually live about 15 minutes away from Pine Valley, and I've been there a couple of times, which is pretty cool. Yeah, they call it the Jersey Pines Golf Club. It's a Dave Cook course. I actually worked on that course for them. I helped them. I've actually helped them with several courses over the years. So since I was able to be there, I was able to take notes on certain aspects of topography and strategy, and I was able to kind of get all that into the game. So the course itself really plays like Pine Valley. and it's just a beautiful place. And it really did mean a lot to me to be able to help them out with that course.
For those who don't know, Pine Valley and Seminole are probably the most two reclusive golf courses in the country. It makes Augusta look like it's a muni.
Hey, so we got the new game coming out, the 2020 version of Action PC Golf. I think that's coming out this week. Was it May 5th, I think was
May 5th, Tuesday.
The projected date to come out. Well, what can you tell us what's going on with the new version?
So the new version has improvements to the physics engine. So, and the physics engine is basically how the ball reacts across certain terrain. So when you hit a ball, the amount of spin, how it reacts when it hits the green, how the rough impacts it, all of that is covered by the physics engine. And there have been, drastic changes to that over the years. And this year really is the best version, the best, most realistic version that they've produced yet. They introduced a new knockdown shot, which basically is almost like a punch shot, but it's really for approach shots into the green where the ball doesn't roll out as much. And that's extremely useful when you play links type courses that have high wind. So basically, you envision hitting a lower trajectory shot that gets underneath the wind, and you can kind of control the distance more. Let's see, what other features do they have?
That would be
so they also made changes to like the tournament screen to try to make it a little bit more look like a broadcast. They do that every year where they kind of make these little subtle changes to the UI to try to make it look, introduce more color, introduce more logos, stuff like that. So the golf game is also doing that as well to try to make it, introduce logos, course logos, tournament logos, which were always supported, but maybe not as visible in the past. And those also look really, really good this year.
Cool. Any particular feature that you're excited to try out, or?
Well, I've been playing for a while, so I haven't seen anything. New. I mean, the physics engine every year, whenever the physics engine changes, if you're a longtime player, it takes a few rounds to kind of get used to the new behavior. So I'm still kind of getting used to the way play around the greens has changed. Pitch shots are a little bit, they feel a little bit different. Chip shots are a little bit different. So it's just the fine tuning of learning how that stuff kind of feels like when you play is what I've been focusing on. I've been kind of quick simming some tournaments because, again, when I spend all this time on these courses, I want to make sure that they actually work in the tournaments. So quick simming tournaments, making sure that the tournaments run faster, which also looks to have changed from years past. It used to take kind of forever to play a tournament in Action PC Golf because there's no sim aspect to what they do. Like if a computer plays a shot, the computer plays a shot exactly as you would. So it's choosing the shot location, it's choosing the shot shape. It runs it through the physics engine. It does the animation. Like everything is exactly the same. It's not like other games where if you quick sim, around, it's basically kind of just rolling a dice and giving a result. Like it's much more involved than that. So the game company is really giving a lot of effort to trying to improve how fast tournaments can run when in sim mode. So nice. That's another nice improvement for this year.
Going forward, what is the future of Action PC Golf look like? What things do you think they might add, or maybe they're looking to do that they didn't get this year? What is your gut feeling about the future of this game?
I think they're trying to appeal to a lot of different customers. So there are people who are there are customers who are just kind of interested in current season replays. So they're interested in Dustin Johnson and Rory, and they just want to play the current 2019-2020 season. So in terms of that, we want to make sure that we have all the courses available, all of the tournaments available, the ability for someone who buys that season to be able to play every tournament on the actual course. I think that's a primary point of focus. Going forward, obviously the game company is kind of committed to making sure that whenever a major gets played, they make sure that they have that course for that year. So I think that commitment is still there. So going forward, I think the idea is that, every course that appears on tour is going to be represented in this game.
Nice.
Okay. Going backwards, we have this challenge of, right now the game company, I think, supports decade support for the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. It's reasonable to expect that at some point they're going to want to go back even further, probably the 70s, probably the 60s. From a course creation standpoint, the challenge is, okay, well, if someone starts playing the 1965 season, they're probably going to want to play tournaments on those courses. So how do we collectively figure out how to get as many of those courses into the game as possible? So I think there's probably going to be a move in that direction to kind of support other historical seasons as well. I also think data before 1980 is also really hard to get because there's a lot of things the PGA just didn't keep track of until 1980. Correct. So there's as Ron said, 1980 is basically the break-even point when there's not even the data that we have now in terms of certain stats. It's the most basic collection of data goes back to the 80s. I think what the game company is thinking of doing is they have already built a database of all these players from historical seasons, and they can kind of look at, average scoring. They can look at the players scoring for those years and kind of draw some conclusions about where a player should be rated or ranked. And then based on the ratings that they've already given them for other seasons, they could probably, guesstimate, let's say, for some of these earlier seasons, which is, I'm assuming that's what other game companies are also doing as well for seasons that don't have actual stats for. Right. And then it's a question of, play testing until you can kind of balance it out and make sure that the numbers end up where they're supposed to end up. So I think the game company is interested. I mean, me personally, I certainly would like to be able to play like the Duel in the Sun. I would like to be able to play some of these earlier seasons where we don't have stats. Tom Weiskopf would be one of the greatest what-ifs ever because he was never that successful but had a ton of talent. And so those 70 seasons, you could do a career replay and see if you could do better. Exactly. I mean, when you start looking at it, again, golf is such a niche sport, but in my opinion, it has like such a rich history, probably second only to baseball. Yep. When you go back into the 40s and 50s, I mean, it's crazy. Like you see guys like Byron Nelson, you look what he did on the tour, which was amazing. The guy won 11 tournaments in a row, and it's not like he was just playing like these podunk tournaments. He's playing against, the top of the line at the time. So I think there's room for them to go into that area. I think there's also room to, again, this is based on what the game company wants to do. I think there's, room to appeal to international players, right? So there's a European tour, there's an Asian tour, there's other. And I know they have customers in other parts of the world. I don't know how many, but I think there's an opportunity to kind of expand into these other tours at some point. One of my favorite features about the game is the different ways you can play it. I play with some of the assists on, but you can really play kind of really difficult if you want. And do they still have the 3-click method for this game? I believe so, yeah. So I think for full swing shots, they support 3-click. Personally, I don't find that mode enjoyable. That's how all the games – I remember back in the day playing a lot of computer golf games, and they were all 3-click. And that's just what you did back then. And I like having that option because once in a while I will try it. It's very difficult. And a lot of reasons that me being the old man that I am is playing these sports simulations games is to not have to worry about my dexterity and hitting the button, is that I can set up my shot and just hit swing, and then I let the game kind of handle it from there. Whereas the 3-click, it really requires the dexterity. It can be kind of frustrating, but once in a while it's fun. Oh, I agree. I mean, in my opinion, the greatest golf game probably still is Lynx. And that was a PC game in the, I think, late 90s or I think I played that, yeah. And that was a 3-click game. And that game, you could probably download that now somewhere, and it probably still holds up, 25 years later. There are still people who play Jack Nicklaus golf. Okay. So that's, I think that's a similar game, right? It's like a 3-click. Yeah. 3-click with the course designer. Yeah, it's very different from what Action PC Sports Golf is doing, right? So it's not, you're not on the course. You're not in this 3-dimensional kind of as the golfer mode. It's a very different game, but those games were great back in the day. But I hear what you're saying, Dave. It's very different. right? It's like it depends more on your dexterity than on
I
the
tried it,
rating.
I tried it once or twice, and I had a real hard time with it. And it was just like, I like to kick up my feet late at night and set up the shot and hit it, and not have to worry about clicking 3 times and making sure I got it. And I had a hard time with it, I got to say, because again, it was I'm not young anymore. I don't have that dexterity to click right on time.
I think there's a small but vocal minority of players who actually prefer that mode, though, because I've seen comments in the forum where people really want that, and some people
want that links experience.
Exactly, and I think they want it expanded into like the putting mode, because right now I think it's only for golf for full shots. So they want some kind of they want some additional choices or strategy involved in the putting mode in Action PC Golf, which is basically you get 3 choices, right? You can either just normal putt, aggressive putt, or lag putt. They want something beyond that. So I don't know, maybe that's something the game company will go into at some point.
All right, let me ask you about some of the other games, because you said you came into the community playing basketball and golf.
Yep.
There's not a lot of stuff on basketball. If you were to try to, how would you sell someone who may be on the fence on Action PC basketball?
Well, I'd say we actually have a lot of college basketball seasons. So I think we have, at least a dozen college basketball seasons, and there's a contributor named Bill Bowers who's done a fantastic job of doing full seasons going back to the 70s. So, basketball is kind of the game company covers, most of the professional seasons, and not so much the college seasons, because again, like as Ron indicated, I think sales possibilities are maybe not as great for some of those seasons. So we really do rely on community contributors to help with those seasons.
Would I want to play the University of Vermont? Doesn't mean that Dave wants to play the University of Vermont.
If Bill is creating these, does he have to go in and create all the teams and all the players and rank all the individual players?
Yeah, I mean, you would have to get Bill on to talk about the process of how to create a basketball season. That's kind of beyond my knowledge. I've personally have had, I've created a whole bunch of baseball seasons in the past, so I'm very well versed on how the baseball game works. Basketball, not as much. I haven't created any of those seasons.
But you have to create the individual players, and you would have to rank them somehow, right, and give them all value?
Yeah. Bill has some process and method that he's used over the years to figure out how to do this stuff. And again, according to the people who've played the seasons, they say it plays very realistically. I'm sure he's built up a database of ratings and whatnot. I'm not entirely sure about the process. I just kind of look at the end result. So.
What I did with the hockey is I kind of cheated a little bit. So I took an NHL season from the 80s, the high-flying 80s, and what I did is I just renamed the players with players that are in my league that I play with. So what I did is I started at the top with the best guy of the NHL, and I just had the list of the best guys in my league. And so Wayne Gretzky became Joe Smith, and Mario Lemieux became Dave Gardner, and I just went down the list, and I slotted everybody in where I thought they would fit in the NHL, and then I set up teams, and I play, and all my guys are there with their names, and I've done a couple broadcasts with them and had fun. So I kind of cheated with that. I didn't give everybody individual ratings. I just renamed the players, kind of the shortcut way, I guess. But the people enjoyed it, and the better guys scored more goals than the lesser guys, because that's where I slotted them in.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing about these games, right? They're really are endlessly customizable, which not all games are. So, kudos to the game company for allowing, customers to be able to change aspects of the game to suit, what they want to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Ron, you got anything else?
Talk a little bit about the baseball game. What intrigues you most about that, or the hockey? What's your favorite? What outside of the golf, and what kind of drew you into it?
Yeah, so baseball's really been my lifelong love. I started playing Stratomac baseball when I was 10 years old. So I actually still play in a league now with the same group of guys that we started back then.
Okay.
So I'm still playing a Stratomac baseball league. I got into Action PC football because, again, back in the early 2000s, I didn't really like the Stratomatic football game in that individual defensive players weren't represented at the time. So I was looking for something else. And, again, this is the early days of the internet, stumbled upon the website, got into a league, and really, really started to like the football game. So I've been playing the football, and then basketball came out. So baseball, again, got into it because it was customizable. I used to actually do work for the Stratomatic community in terms of creating minor league seasons for them. Back, probably 10, 15 years ago. But once I kind of started working, on the golf game and got to know the Cooks a little bit, I kind of became comfortable and just decided to kind of dive fully into their games.
Nice.
They do a great job. They're, really nice guys, great customer support.
Yes, tremendous.
Yeah, it's hard to beat it.
Yeah.
Hard to beat that experience.
One of the shows we did in the past was open engine versus closed engine. And obviously the Dave Cook Action PC games are closed engined. Was it a big difference coming over from an open engine like a Strat or an Apple or something like that into something like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different, right? So personally, I don't really have a strong preference either way. I guess from an open engine, it is nice to know how the results are being derived. But from, a computer programming aspect, from the action PC games, I understand why they don't, expose all of it. I think they do a good job of kind of, in certain games, they expose how results were derived in certain ways. Like the football game will kind of show you percentages of success versus failure based on, the defense or whatever. Like, I think that's all good. The golf game does something similar. Like if you hit a ball, it'll say like, what degree to the left it missed. And again, the engine is kind of figuring out what these results are, and it tries to present them in a way that's not, I guess, too inside baseball and giving up too much information about how the game works.
The baseball game has the outcome box, and in my season replay that I stream, I show that. So when someone, if you care, you can look at someone coming up and see the probabilities of a hit, a homer, or a strikeout.
Yeah. And I think the only time that really becomes super important is like when something improbable happens. You want to know it's not just something that's kind of baked into the game where, the game has to generate these results. So, like, again, not to bring up Strat-Mac as a bad example, but like the football game used to do that, right? Where we kind of re-roll certain in certain instances to produce some pre-canned result, or to prevent some result from happening, like a long run that didn't happen in real life.
One of the nice things about the action PC games is there is no artificial limit to what someone can do statistically. So if someone exceeds their hockey goals or baseball home runs, they can exceed it.
Right. I always thought that was funny in the Stratomac baseball game. I remember there was a setting to and again, this was the 90s when Greg Maddux would pitch, 250 innings and walk, 5 guys.
Yeah.
They had some setting to prevent, I forget what it was called. It was like to prevent deviations based on reality or something. So like it would basically prevent like Greg Maddux from walking more than 10 guys in a season.
See, that's why I never play Strat on the PC with miscellaneous rules on. I want it to be all off the cards.
Right.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, because I have the action PC, obviously all the action PC games, but I have a couple of the Strat games. I have the basketball and the hockey, and they're different games, and I like them both for different reasons. There's sometimes I really enjoy seeing that dice roll and the card come up and seeing where that lands. I really like that about that. But there's other times that action PC does some things that I really enjoy in the presentation of that as well.
The night the lights went out at the rink for you.
I just wrote that down on my notes. Yeah, one of the things that I was actually streaming a game, Mike, on my YouTube channel. It was actually the Russians and the Canadians. I was playing the Summit series, okay? And I think it was one of the homebrew seasons off of Sports Replays. And right in the middle of the first period or second period, the screen went black, and I thought the game crashed. And I'm like, oh, guys, the game crashed. Hang on, I'm going to have to reboot the game. And I was live at the time.
Was the game being played in the Soviet Union?
No, it was in Canada. It was in Canada. It was in Canada. And all of a sudden, I looked and the text is still scrolling. I'm like, well, maybe the game didn't crash, but my screen is black. And it said the lights went out at the arena. And I played that up because the Canadians were winning like late in the game, whatever it was. And I was like, the Russians are thinking the Canadians are playing games with them, folks. The Russians have left the ice.
They're going home. They're going home.
And I hammed it up, and I still have that clip. So every now and then I see on a forum someone says, "Oh, I had the blackout happen." I says, "I have it, and I have it on tape, and I can show you what it looks like." So
that's Yeah, that's a careful balance of making sure you don't make that stuff show up too often in a game, though.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want,
no, exactly.
Demolition night to happen more than once.
Yeah, we had talked about that, too. If that happened like every third or fourth game, it wouldn't be as special, okay? One last thing I got for you. You need to drop a bug. In the Dave Cook year, we need replays on hockey goals. We have football replays. We have golf replays. We have baseball replays. A goal in hockey. We don't need the whole play. We just need the goal replay.
The replay of the animation?
The replay of the animation for the goal. Because we score the goal. That's the biggest part of a hockey game. And we need to go back and show that shot again. So we're dropping bugs, and everybody's here we can drop a bug into to get that through to him that we need. And I sent him an email on that, too. And he was like, well, most people are concerned about the stats, not the chalkboard. I'm like, no. We need the replay. We need the replay in hockey. So drop that bug if you can, because I'm dropping bugs everywhere.
Consider it noted.
All right, cool. All right, well, let's finish up here. So, again, we went with Mike from the Action PC Sports Community webpage. So, Mike, one last time, why don't you give us a little bit of description about your webpage, where we can find it, any other things you want to add about this webpage?
Sure. The apcsportscommunity.com website is a repository to store any community-provided content for Action PC sports games. That includes baseball, basketball, football, golf, and hockey. If you need to contact me, you can click on the Contact Us link on the bottom of the website. Send me an email. If you have any seasons that you've done in the past, we're happy to host them. Any image packs, any other modifications, court photos, rink photos, stadium photos. We're happy to host all that stuff. Just contact me, and I'm happy to walk you through it.
Okay. Ron, any final thoughts?
An awesome interview. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on to Digital to Dice, Mike. So, once again, Mike from the Action PC Community, thanks for joining us.
So that was a very interesting interview, wasn't it? First of all, Dave, we learned how to pronounce it. Cook.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. Yeah, so now we know. So now when we do our shows and we do our videos, and the community now.
Now it's Cook. The only other place I've ever heard it pronounced that way, honest to goodness, in the town that my dad grew up in the Dunkirk, Fredonia, New York area, the local brewery was spelled K-O-C-H, and it was pronounced Cook's.
Okay, so now we know.
So now you know. So you can open up a Cook's while you're enjoying Dave Cook Sports. That's right. So yeah, it was a great interview. Mike did a great job. He's got a great website there. So we invite everybody to check it out again. It's apcsportscommunity.com. They got a bunch of resources there for the Action PC game. So let's wrap this up, Ron. All right. So this was episode 38, the TV 38 episode of Digital to Dice. Will not be seen tonight in order so we may bring you Boston Red Sox baseball. I remember when they used to say, we're going to interrupt this Bruins playoff game to bring you Red Sox Grapefruit League baseball. What? Yay! What are you talking? You can watch the Bruins on channel, I don't know, 97 or something. I don't know. That's right. But anyway, yeah, ways to get a hold of us. DigitalToDice.com is where we park all the podcasts over on Spreaker. 978-751-DICE is the Dice line. And Facebook.com/group/DigitalToDice. I'm Dave. I'm Ron. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time on Digital to Dice. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.